Hey,
Hello.
what's up?
Hi. Can I share this to my stories now that I'm in here? Doesn't
Uh,
work.
I think I think so now. Yeah.
No, when I hit share, it keeps just sending. Like I can send it to a friend, but I don't know. Anyway, how's it going?
Yeah, good. It's been a while. How about you?
I'm doing great. It's fabulous here today in Las Vegas. So,
Yeah, lucky you. I'm stuck up here in freaking cold ass Canada. So.
well, I'm just on a walk with Carlos Zema. Here.
Yo, hey.
How's it going, brother?
Good, good.
Good to see you.
Good
Yeah.
to see you, man.
But it's super nice out here, and I couldn't resist coming outside. So,
Oh yeah, yeah. That's fair enough. Yeah.
how are you?
Yeah, I've been all right. It's just been it's been really cool because I'm just seeing some of the people coming in. So we've been doing this show for about 2 weeks now, and so far you're probably the most anticipated guest on here so far. I've actually
Uh-huh.
your name has been mentioned a bunch of times so far from myself and
Wow.
and a bunch of the guests too. I'll like do little spoilers like during the stream, but like, oh yeah, by the way, so and so is going to be on here. And whenever I mention your name, all of the comments are like, oh my god, Mary's be on your show, and I'm like, oh yeah.
Oh, cool. Well, it's awesome to be on and to talk metal stuff, and yeah, it's all fun.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess I'll start off with I guess how you guys been during this situation that we're all in. How's it down there over in Las Vegas? How's the COVID situation and the situation for like you guys musically and all that at the moment?
Well, it's been pretty good. Like it was kind of gnarly when it first started. When I actually saw like a post that I made like a year ago, where Carlos and I had been to Brazil, like around this exact same time last year, which was literally like the last time anybody could leave the country.
Oh yeah.
And at that time, even when we came back, they were only worried about Italy and Iran. This was right at the beginning of the toilet paper hand sanitizer crisis. So we
Oh
brought paper back from Brazil. So, but Helion Prime was able to put out an album that I think is good for us. And then, Carlos's band also, they live across the street from me pretty much. So, also in Las Vegas, they were able to put out a record. So we just do what we can with the time that we have, and we had to get kind of creative with our with the with the videos. Like, so the last video that I put out, I had to film in my living room, or my dining room rather, and everybody sort of had to film their own parts at their respective homes. But I think it's been harder for my other bandmates because some of them live in California, which has had far more restrictive laws, and it did kind of take us down a little bit. I guess the biggest thing is shows being shut down, and a lot of the musicians here, even if they have bands, they also do other shows here. And so I think that has been the hardest, is friends of mine that are in like Cirque du Soleil and things like that, have been completely out of work and just as unemployed as everyone else. So, it's kind of sucks not to tour as well, and to have the festivals we were supposed to be on get canceled.
hyperspace.
Yeah, I relate to that. So, kind of, but strange. But I always saw the end coming. Things don't last forever. I've been around long enough now that, even though it's been a while, it's like things are coming back already. People are like, thankfully we have a vaccine, and so now people can anticipate being cleared for, to be able to have festivals and things a little later in the year. So I already see the light at the end of the tunnel, so I'm glad for that.
Yeah, it's that was definitely a huge blow for sure because like as you said with the festivals being canceled, like as I said, Hyperspace, that was obviously, like, since you guys are a lot more of an established band than us, that was supposed to be our first actual festival, and just to have it completely just gone, it was just like,
Bummer. That sucks, man.
yeah. But yeah, no, but I remember, it's funny you mentioned about all your bandmates in Helion Prime, because I've seen, because in the videos, you guys, I think, out of any band I've seen during this time, have actually done the absolute best you could with what you had, because that's one thing I've been kind of looking at and learning myself. That's the whole reason kind of why I started this series, is to be able to talk and network with people again, and just to be able to be social again, you know?
Yeah.
But with you guys, I saw that you guys obviously tried to get really creative with the music videos and all that. And I don't know where I heard this, but I remember you mentioning you all mailed the camera equipment to each other or something, or?
Yeah, so like the last video, well, actually in another video that I haven't edited yet, but we mailed equipment and lights around to each other to try to get it to look the same. So it definitely was hard to get it to look the same, even with that. And we were trying to keep it simple, like do a black background, and it's so hard. It's like, if you don't do the exact same camera and exact same lights, and there's a lot that goes into it. And I edited the last video, and it was also a way for us to get more done, you know, on a budget. I never did a lyric video before. I've edited a lot of video. Obviously, I have a YouTube channel, and I've edited like all the covers and all the stuff. I've been doing that for a long time, but yeah, just doing our own stuff a little bit, editing our own videos, because we can, and because it's just, you know, you can make more stuff that way on your budget. And what else are we going to do? We have to live in the digital era and do it digitally, and we can't tour right now. So it's just kind of, you know, that's, and I think too, Immortal Guardian has been a good example too of being able to do that as well. They've been just trying to do as much as they can digitally, and I think this is the new way. I think a lot of people in like the power and melodic metal scene have been resistant to that, but because a lot of old school people like to dig in their heels and not dive into the internet. But this is how it has to be now, and it works really well because everybody's just at home, so they need something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's kind of the. Oh wait, before I continue, we have a couple comments, but one thing I'll just say, my little thing that I say every stream before we continue is, all you guys watching, if you guys have any comments for Mary or myself, please put them in. Please put them in the comments. And we got a comment here from the Angela. I'm really sorry if I butchered that name. Happy Women's Day. Yes, it's National Women's Day.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I actually didn't realize that was a thing until today, and I'm just like, oh, what better person to have on the show today than one of my absolute favorite singers, chick singers in metal, you know?
Thank you very much. Thank you guys so much. Thank you so much.
All right, so I guess just to continue on from what we were talking about, yeah, I know what you mean with the whole, a lot of the people in the power metal, melodic metal scene have been kind of resistant to the whole using the internet, because that was actually me for the first 6 months of this thing, because we obviously had our tour in Hyperspace canceled, and we lost 2 members. We had 2 members leave, and that whole 6 months was literally just, aside from looking for new members, we just did nothing. So I was just like, oh, fuck live stream shows, fuck all this other stuff. That's, you know, but then after a while, a friend of mine named Gaia Gawarda, who was on the show, she was on the first episode actually. Sure. She gave me this idea because I was on her show for this thing, and I'm just like, huh, this is actually pretty cool, and a lot of people seem to like it. And so she kind of told me that, like, okay, you gotta if you still want to be remembered by people, you gotta adapt. And I'm just like, oh, okay, it looks like I have some stuff to do. And that's kind of why I started doing this show and doing all this other stuff. So, yeah.
Well, that's important, and I think that look at what it's doing for you guys. You know, it's generating the interest. It works really, really well, and it brings people to your page. And again, you get to network, you get to learn some things, and I think it's actually a much better time to be a musician than it used to be. There's so much more resources, and again, it's in your control. You're not waiting around. I don't know what this fantasy about the olden times is, because back in the olden times that everyone tries to say was so much better, it was a lot harder to get someone significant to pay attention to you. And nowadays, you actually don't need to depend on someone significant. You make your own stuff, you grow your own audience, and if a record exec doesn't like it, who cares? They don't have to.
It's funny you bring that up. The whole the old way of thinking of things is because, like, I completely agree with you in the sense that, like, even with platforms like Instagram, I find it's a lot easier to get in contact with certain people, and it's way more accessible to talk to certain people. Like, I won't spoil who it is, because we have, like, in a few weeks, we have a couple of, there's some people who I'm going to have on this show soon who I never would have dreamed I would have. Like, because a lot of the time I thought, oh, they're way too big, they're not going to even look at me, you know, whatever. But I just asked them, because it's not just the first few episodes of this are just people who I know, or people who I wanted to catch up with, like you and Paul from Blackguard I had on a little bit ago, and I've actually had one or two of your students actually on the show as well, and we've discussed vocals on here. Like, she was in the chat earlier, but Krista from Lycanthro was on here last week.
Yes, she's great. Yes.
And next week, and I'll spoil this a bit because I think she's in the chat too, is we're having Jess from Juliet Ruin on as well.
Oh, how cool.
So yeah, it's been but yeah, no, but as I was saying with the whole thing with the olden days, I still find it mind-blowing that some bands nowadays still have the fantasy of, we're going to play all these small shows that are really crappy, and we'll get noticed by somebody, and I'm just like,
Yeah, and especially now, it's like you're just kind of forced to be on the internet because you know, people are at home, you know, and everybody has a phone in their pocket. So right now, when you're doing this live, like, everybody who follows you got notified. I mean, this is more reach than a flyer, like analog flyers.
oh yeah.
Or for a shitty show ever could have done. What I could have done with these resources back in the day, I tell you what. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I guess to add from that is you mentioned the whole thing of back in the day. That was a horrible segue to what I was going to say. So I guess just to get into just the basic thing, because since this show is still not, I hesitate to call it an interview show. It's more like a conversation, but I do have some things prepared that I like to ask everybody. So one of the things is, how did you start doing the whole VoiceHacks YouTube thing? Like, were you teaching vocals, like, back when you were in, like, Luna Mortis and White Empress and all that, were you teaching vocals already at that point, or did this YouTube thing, or did the vocal coaching thing come afterwards?
No, I have always been teaching vocals since I was like 19, in some capacity, you know, but before 2013, it was in person because there just wasn't enough people. I was doing, like, Skype calls, not for lessons, but to talk to my friends in, like, 2009 or 2010. So, like, I don't know, the video technology was there, but I just don't think that many people, like, you didn't have anywhere near as many devices with, like, nice built-in cameras and, you know, all this stuff. So, and not that many people subscribing to super high internet speeds and things. So I didn't move to online until 2013. And then I started doing online lessons in 2013, and it started going really well. And I started trying to do, I actually tried to make my videos for like a membership site, but I actually had no idea what I was doing. I can't code or anything, and I really didn't understand how to handle like consumer data and like all this crazy security stuff. And so I was just like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be like responsible for all that. It was too crazy. Like now there's some services you can do your classes through and stuff like that. But at the time it was like maybe 2014, and I took it down, and I actually have something planned in that realm again, but it'll be different. But so at the time I took it down, and then I went to, I just said, well, screw it. I'll just put all of these up on YouTube, and then just generate private lessons from that, and just do what I always did, but just, help people out on YouTube. And it just sort of grew organically by itself on YouTube, people having some free lessons, that they can learn from, get them started, get it going. But then it really started blowing up when I started to put a little bit more direct effort into it, because at first it was just, I just threw stuff up on there and was like, here's the lessons. But now I specifically try to like make more content, and I'm a musician and voice teacher who also had to learn how to be a content creator and adapt to that. And so I've had to learn as I go to look at it from that perspective more. And that's when the channel started to really blow up a couple of years ago, because I started to look at it more from a content creator perspective. And I was able to reach a lot more people. Still not as many as I would like to, but definitely a big improvement, I would say. So that was cool.
Oh yeah, and for all your efforts, I correct me if I'm wrong, but last I checked, you were at almost 100,000 subscribers, which is incredible. And
Yeah.
So how did you, like, what are some of the things you had to learn to in terms of like content creation? Like, what are some of the techniques you had to learn? Because a lot of people I've found have had to learn social media or content platforms during this time to get their whatever they want to promote out there.
Yeah.
And as I said, me personally, with this whole live stream thing, I've literally had to learn Instagram. So what are some of the ways you had to learn YouTube, if that makes any sense?
Well, a few things. How to like edit videos. I mean, even when I first started, I had to look up like how to light something. And my first videos, the lighting's still off. And how to edit, you're just like editing, you're learning as you're editing in like iMovie or whatever. And how to like the fastest ways to just like do your audio, do your video, like the most efficient ways, the best way to edit, the best way to put your little graphics, like all types of things as far as keywords and what do you put in the description, what do you put in your keywords, like that. I've had to I've redone my thumbnails like 4 different times. Like I've gone back to all my existing stuff and redone a lot of things, re-edited some of the videos, fixed the description, changed the keywords, taken classes on how to do some of the stuff. So yeah, it's like a lot, I think. And Carlos was just mentioning, he had to learn a lot this year too in that realm. He's making a lot of YouTube videos and had to learn how to make them as well, kind of on the fly.
Yeah, Carlos, if you have anything to interject with what I'm asking, then feel free to jump in if you like, because I honestly wasn't expecting to have both of you on. So.
Well, I just couldn't hear your last sentence. I was cutting off a little bit.
Oh, sorry. I just meant to say that if you have anything to add to what I'm asking, then feel free to jump in. Because as I said, I wasn't expecting to have both of you on here. So.
Yeah, dude, definitely, man. Like the whole new platform learning curve, I think it's comfort bubble that needs to be broken right now, public,
Mm-hmm.
And I just experienced myself recently. I got some courses with the Spotify platform. I started to kind of like study the whole behavioral algorithm, you know, and then just dived into like learning little things about Spotify to kind of like get the music out there a little bit, you know. And we got like over 23,000% in growth in the last month.
Yeah. Yeah, with all your guys, I've been seeing you guys everywhere because you guys actually share the same PR guy as us, John Asher.
Yeah,
And
it's amazing.
yeah, and he was on the show. He was on the show like a few weeks ago, and I remember whenever I saw him post something, it was always you guys. That's why I always heard. I'm like, that's why like you guys have definitely had you guys and Helion Prime had some of the best promotion I've seen during this entire pandemic, and it seems like it seems like it's been working great, especially like using the really like, how do I say this? There's really clever ways of doing it, like when you guys did the lockdown video and it's all on Zoom, like that was sick.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. You know, that's what everybody was using at the time, you know. There was like totally, you know, reference to, I don't know, man, 90% of us that survived through the pandemic. So we decided to use that to kind of make the humor behind the, you know, the message, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure, man. Mm-hmm.
Well, thanks for, you know, I guess letting me participate here with Mary.
It's all good, man. Hey, maybe soon we can maybe soon we can have you like on an episode yourself, just you.
Sure, man. Yeah, let's do it.
See?
All right, man.
All right, there we go.
Nice talking to you, brother.
Yeah, see you, man.
Yeah.
Well, interject because he has some definitely some cool things to say, and it's the same genre. So yeah, I think that, you know, we all learned a lot this year, but you can see that once you get through that door and you get on the other side of it, then it's really addicting because you actually finally start. Once you lose the stubbornness, you actually finally start getting the results that you wanted. Like
yeah, it's
and
true.
then you're like, oh, addicting.
Yeah, it's almost like once you break your ego, you'll start seeing the results you want, because that's one thing that I find. Even again, I won't mention any names, but like some people that I know I'm still trying to kind of push them into that, because a lot of people, it's also not just because of stubbornness, but I think it's also just because a lot of people just, it seems too daunting, I find, because like people are like, oh, I have to post every day or do this every day, and it's a hustle, you know, but it's worth it in the end.
It's worth it. Honestly, you don't have to be perfect at it to make it work. For me, like sometimes I want to get out more videos than I can. I can't always, you know, there's too much life, but you just keep going, you know. It doesn't have to be perfect, and so you say you don't post, or say you like miss a week or two, and just keep going, because it's like a diet. Like a lot of people think like, oh, if they miss like 2 days, then they're screwed and they're done, you know. And so that's not how it is. It's like, even if you skip a little bit, that's like 300 days that you did something, even if it wasn't 365 days or whatever. Better than stopping and doing 0 days. So I think that's the most important part, is people have to realize that their efforts, their social media doesn't have to be perfect. Like, do it as much as you can, as much as you feel motivated to. But if there are times when you can't, you know, we can't. We're only human. It's not possible. Some of these people we see cranking out the stuff have like teams of people, have a lot of help. It's not always just one person. So, you know, you can't necessarily fairly compare to some of the high output creators as well. Not everything you see is exactly what's going on, you know, so you've got to just keep going, you know, just do what you can when you can, because it's still a lot better than the bands that are doing nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Sorry?
still gonna grow, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, and as I said, it's one of those things where, like, it's been very eye-opening for me personally, because, as I said, I used to be the same. Hey, Babel228, what's up, man? He, yeah, no, it's been very eye-opening for me, and that's why now I'm trying to push everybody I know to do the same things. I'm like, this is what you do to get the results you want, and everybody's like, no, and so
Well, now
yeah.
well, I'm doing stuff, and I had this person on, and I had that person on, and then everyone's like, "Oh, really?" But here's the other thing, though. There's a lot of bands I know that I've told this stuff to that are at the top of the complaining list, at top of the complaining that nobody does this for them, top of the complaining that they're so good but nobody's listening, blah 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 blah, and they still won't do it. A lot of them, even when they see other bands doing it and other bands working. Like, what surprised me about like the information age is the amount of information and how it still depends on you to actually do it, and how few people will actually do it. It's very strange.
Mhm.
But so there you go. There's some palm trees to warm you up.
Oh, that's nice. That's really nice. I would show you what it looks like outside here, but it's very dark out right now because in Canada during the winter the sun goes down at like 4. So
I live in Wisconsin, so that's why I live here now, because it's the same. So
yeah, yeah. I guess so. Moving on. I guess one of the other things I want to bring up, the real, I guess, meat of the conversation. I know we talked about it a little bit earlier, but I guess to go into more in depth right now is Helion Prime. So you guys put out Question Everything last year.
yeah.
It was an amazing. It was one of my top 3 of the whole year.
Oh, wow,
And
thanks.
yeah, no problem. And so I guess to start things off, obviously the album got a really good reception. So how did you guys react to the reception? Were you expecting it? Like, did you know, oh yeah, this is the best thing we've ever done? Or were you like, what was your reaction to the reception of the album?
Yeah, I think actually it got perceived pretty well, and I think that's the best we could have asked for, given the fact that we've had different singers and different lineup changes, and I was expecting it to do pretty well because we did a lot of things for the fans that I think were important for them in the transition of the front people and singers. And so I think those things all made it go over really, really well and made it to where people enjoyed the record a little bit more than if we had just sort of like abruptly changed directions, if you will. And so as a result, we ended up reaching a lot of people and doing quite good. And I think that the fans were pretty happy with what we ended up giving to them, because I think, you know, a lot of people were like, oh, you guys were doing fan service. And essentially we were, because in order to, you know, make, I think because Helion Prime has been in the unique position of having so many different singers, I think they wanted to show the fans, you know, that it's just weird coincidences. It is really weird, but that it's not this thing that we wanted it to take away. We wanted to give it, the material, some continuity, make it relate to each other, invite the other vocalists to do the stuff with us, because it helped carry the sound through and kind of give it some more continuity. And I think that was exactly what the audience needed for this record. You know, I don't think we could have just done anything too abrupt or too different. So I did expect it to go over fairly well. So
Yeah, and yeah, it's good. It's cool that you mentioned the other 2 singers, is because that's the other thing I was gonna bring up. So the title track obviously was my personal favorite song on the album, and I found it really awesome because, again, this isn't something that's very common, especially nowadays with a lot of bands. That that you guys, I think, seem to have is you guys seem to have a really good relationship with the former members. So you get like that's so you can do those collaborations, because when you guys first announced like, oh, all three singers on the same song, like that was, and when I saw that I was like, that's so cool, you know, that's like it was just really sweet. So
I think it's super important because I think, you know, people have to realize that like you know, like there are reasons why the other vocalists didn't want to do Helion Prime anymore. It didn't really have anything to do with the people in Helion Prime. And so and stuff too. And me as well, to be fair, you know, because I'm also the same. Like I have been in different bands, you know, so they're the band who's had different singers and I'm the singer who's had different bands. So I think we really wanted to show everybody that like, you know, we just all have had weird things happen, but that everything's good, that we're, you know, we want to work with other people and not have, not give the impression that there was any like problems. Also too, you know, for the other singers that have been in the band, you want it to be fair to them as well. You know, you don't want people saying that they think they left because they were hard to work with or something, because they aren't. And I think that also proves something for them as well. You know, that they are people that we like working with, and that wasn't the reason, you know, or whatever, you know, so stuff like that. It really goes on both sides, I think, that the band and the vocalists, like, you know, not everybody has the same musical vision. Some people grow out of things. And also, you know, in Sozos's case, is just difficult for him to tour because he's from Cyprus. And I don't think a lot of Americans can perceive where that is exactly. It's an island in the Mediterranean. And it has its own political problems. It's split in half and it has a DMZ on the island. So like a lot of people don't understand that. Like it's not very easy. The rest of the world is not America, you know, like it's not, you can't just jump on a plane and go wherever and go, not every passport comes with the same visa privileges and things like that. And so people, you know, it's a lot more complicated. So even for Question Everything, Sozos filmed his parts in Cyprus, which by the way, people were commenting like, how come that guy had so much better scenery than the rest of you guys? And we were just he literally lives on like the most beautiful island like in the planet, like like none of us will even come close to that kind of footage. But we had him do it there, you know, because obviously again, difficulty, pandemic, but also Trump, he was making it impossible for people to come from like different countries to come here. It was already hard to get musicians in. So people don't understand that the behind the scenes, there's a lot more complicated stuff with this stuff. And it's not so much whether or not like people get along. In fact, getting along is not the problem. It's these other things that end up being the problem. So.
Yeah. And and the whole visa situation, especially like with the States, is just, especially for musicians, is just terrible, because I personally did the research for it, because the original plan for us, at least, to go to hyperspace was, we said, hey, you know, let's tour through the States. Why not? Because we talked through to a bunch of bands that we were going to play shows with or whatever. And it never ended up happening because we already like sort of kind of were in talks to have shows in different spots like Chicago or whatever. And it just the visa cost was just way more than we were expecting, you know. And we're from Canada, you know, we're not that far. It's not like, and it's just ludicrous, the whole visa process.
Even pre-Trump, who made it worse as far as every person coming here, but also even when Obama was president, there was it was always bad for musicians to get over here. My former bass player Chella, who was from Canada or is from Canada, she lives in Ontario, and she was in White Empress, and again, to get her over the border, not very far. White Empress was based in Wisconsin and Minneapolis, and so like again, we're talking like right there. They did, you know, I had to like pretty much give my right arm like I had to fill out as a person in the United States, because Paul, my other guitar player, had immigrated from England, so he was on a green card. So he couldn't be a representative. Like I had to be like the citizen, like vouching for everybody and signing my left arm to the government, and like just getting her in for like 4 or 5 shows took like a mountain of paperwork, a musicians union, like just an incredible amount of stuff. So even when my keyboard player Will was coming over, even when he had totally the right to, we were not playing shows, we just flew him over for a photo shoot, which is totally allowed. No one was getting paid. It's only work, like paid shows and work visa. But if you come through the border with instruments, they're going to assume you're going to work. So even if you but in his case, he came over from England to do a photo shoot. We had never flown him here for shows because of that. He only ever played shows with us in Japan. And he even just coming as a tourist, like from England to Minneapolis, the American customs was like, why are you going to Minneapolis? No one goes to Minneapolis. Like, even have an instrument with him. So and again, what he was doing was perfectly legal, though. I mean, he was coming for an unpaid like photo shoot thing. Doesn't require any sort of visa. Tourist visa is fine for that. So it's interesting that even when you don't bring an instrument, if the Americans just think that something's strange, like why would you want to go here? Like can't have a cousin in Nebraska or something, so like they act like everything is strange. So then if you come through with an instrument, you'll definitely be extremely interrogated. So you can see how difficult it would be for someone, and then of course people profile, and then obviously Trump setting a certain profile, so people obviously from certain countries or who look a certain way are going to be unfairly targeted on top of that, on top of them just acting like going to Minnesota is weird. So, it makes it so hard. And I wish people would really realize that and have sympathy for that, because Americans get arrogant. They think like the world is like the United States. You can just hop on a plane, and it is not like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, I even remember, like, this is just like even like a small thing, but I even remember I went to Prague Power in 2019. It was my first time going, and I remember when I got off the plane, literally the first thing the guy asked, he's like, "What are you doing in?" It's like, "What are you doing in Atlanta for? There's nothing here." And I'm like, "Music festival." Oh, all right then,
Yeah, they all act like, "Why would you want to come here for?" And it's like, it is a big city. Like, it's amazing.
Yeah, it's like if it's not New York or Los Angeles or Las Vegas, then it's like, why are you here?
That's it's so now, like, imagine a musician, and somebody from the Mediterranean or the Middle East, like, it's going to be so much worse. So I definitely don't I have sympathy for everybody who's had trouble getting into the States. And even one of my friends, Noah from Stardust, she wanted to bring them here because they were going to play in Canada, and I was like, because they're from Israel, and I was just like, just stay on the Canadian side. You have a visa, I wish I could get you into the States, but like the not affordable, and it's too tough, so, it's hard. It's really hard,
Man, that's I totally hear you with that. And just as a quick aside, man, Stardust was gonna come here.
Yeah.
What?
We're gonna come to Canada, so maybe they'll reschedule whatever they had planned. But
yeah, well, it's funny you bring them up, because for everyone who's watching, I'll just give a little preview. Noah from Stardust is actually going to be on the show next week. So for those of you watching who know them, then
yeah. Well, yeah, that's the thing is, so I mean, it's hard for bands. It's really hard for international metal and rock bands. So if you're I think the shows will come back domestically first, so if you can just tour in your own state and your own country and make the most of it, I think even with COVID, it's just what people are going to have to do for a while. Domestic things wherever you are, it's gonna be more the thing. You'll probably see more festivals that involve more like regional bands, because for a while it's still going to be really tough to travel musicians.
Yeah, so we have a comment from Van Composer. Getting my green card was the most intimidating experience I ever had. Yeah, I totally get it. And this is coming from someone where I've never experienced it personally, but both my parents are actually immigrants to Canada, at least. And it was the same thing here. Like, it's a very daunting experience. My mom actually is from Cuba, and she came here.
Wow.
And she came at the height of communist Cuba back in like the 70s and 80s. She came, it's one of those things that it's very like, I can totally sympathize because both my parents were, my dad is from England, so it was obviously easier for him. But whenever someone says stuff like that, from a musician standpoint, or even from just as a person, I can completely sympathize, because it was like one of my folks came from one of the most oppressed countries, so.
And Ricardo, the Van Composer, he's a guy he's German. So
oh, really?
I know him because he knows Gabriel and all the Immortal Guardian guys, and but yeah, so he's getting his card from Germany, so it's just daunting if you're not American, period. Like, wherever you're trying to, I admire anybody who's trying to immigrate to another country or get their citizenship somewhere else, functioning in a second language as well. This is another barrier. You're trying to communicate about something legal and complex. This is not conversational vocabulary. You could be pretty fluent and it's still like, even people where it's their first language, the legalese gets to be like, what is this? And so I think it's just really hard. And so I think for a while people will be kind of touring domestically and stuff, and I think it'll be I think maybe for a little while it'll be hard. Although Unleash the Archers and Striker and Northtail and plans for a tour later this year. So that, I don't know, who knows? Maybe that's the light at the end of the tunnel. Who knows? They might be we might see some international tours. I don't know.
Yeah, they might pull it off. So yeah, I guess we have about 15 minutes left. So I was there's just a few more things I'll touch on that I wanted to ask you and some of the viewers as well. Is I guess for Helion Prime, as I was talking earlier, so you were mentioning Sozos and the problems with Cyprus and all that. So after he officially left, I'm sure you get this a lot, but how did it come around? How did you join? How did you join Helion Prime?
It's kind of a funny story because Jason actually asked me to be the singer before Sozos joined, and I said no. And the reason is because at that time I had always been in like heavier bands, and I was super convinced for some reason like I needed to scream in the band, and Jason was like, I just don't want to do that. I don't want to change the sound or whatever. We had talked a couple times, and I was like, well, and then I gave him some recommendations actually of some different people. And I was like, this person and this person I think would be good. Check them out. And I didn't know Sozos. He was random. He was an audition that they got, and they picked him. They really liked him. But then it came around that, again, it was extremely difficult to get him to the States for tours. They were actually, again, different countries, different rules. So he was actually able to go to Canada for hyperspace and did one of the hyperspaces with them. But again, it's not the United States. So I think sometimes it depends on, for example, like Cuba, for a long time Americans couldn't fly to Cuba and vice versa, whereas like Canada they could go to. So as you know from your mom and from other experiences, like different relationships different nations have with each other will change like the ease of that person getting in and out of that particular country. So that he was able to go to Canada, but then it came around that the Unleash the Archers Striker Helion Prime tour was going to come up. And it was really clear that a visa for that length of time and that level of artist was just going to be like unaffordable, because people don't understand, even when you can get them for artist purposes and stuff, which sometimes you can, as you looked into, it's very cost prohibitive. So, and oftentimes you have to hire a special agency help you with that, and that has its own cost that is quite expensive as well. And so it just looked like, okay, for an opening spot on a tour, it wasn't going to be possible, and everyone else lived in the States, so it was kind of like, well, we've got to decide what to do. And so then Jason came back around and was like, well, hey, I know you didn't want to join or anything, and at this time, so this was just temporarily not going to tour. So he was like, would you just be interested in standing in? And I was like, yeah, that'd be great. Like, I'd love to tour. And it was great. We got along amazingly the whole tour. And then and it was great because it's not often that you can get to know people, and all the guys were super, super nice. And no matter how difficult things got, like, we had crazy things happen, but they kept their shit together. And they all, like, it's hard to find people in the music industry that, like, I don't know, don't have like crazy problems and stuff like that. And it's because sometimes creativity, mental health, they don't go together, and you never know. Or professionalism doesn't go together. You can be a good musician, but like just super unprofessional or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And the guys were not like that. They had their shit together. They were responsible. Like, they're really nice. I like touring with them. I had no problems. It was awesome. So when the tour ended, after a while, I think they were talking, I don't actually know, but I think Jason and Sozos talked and kind of realized, like, it was never really going to work if they wanted to tour as much as they wanted. And while and I think that's why they still do Planeswalker. They work together, but that they don't have to tour under that project. That was kind of their compromise, was to still do something, but not have it be Helion Prime. So then we came back around, and then it became like, well, Sozos it's not going to work out. And it turned out that we all got along really well. And so the guys were like, we should do this. And I was like, yeah, I think I would like to do it, because I sang all the material for weeks now, and I realized I didn't really miss the screaming very much. And what I realized about my screaming is, when I've been in the bands where I do harsh vocals, people only pay attention to those. They don't really pay attention. Everybody forgets that I can sing. Like, it's like on the back burner. Even when I sing for a whole album, they still forget that I can sing. So it's just, I decided that would be good, because I'll be singing more. And I do most of my screaming on YouTube anyway these days. And I really didn't miss it. And so and again, it's not that you don't get very often that you kind of get to try out a band before you join it. Like, I already knew how these guys were under pressure and how they would be on tour. And so then when it came back around the second time, we realized, like, it really was the best fit, for each other. It worked out really, really good. So, and then it ended up working out good for Jason and Sozos too, because they still got to do their project, but they didn't have like the pressure or the obligation or the cost of, like, to worry about touring or anything like that. So
yeah. And yeah, it's really sweet. And I actually remember that tour, because I'm pretty sure that Helion, they didn't play the Canadian dates, right? You guys just did the US dates, right?
we only did the US dates on that tour.
Yeah, because I remember that show. I've mentioned that show before on here, but we opened for Unleash the Archers and Stryker when they came to Ottawa. And I will say I was very, very disappointed, because I only found out you guys weren't doing the Canadian dates maybe like a few days before. No. And I was really disappointed. I'm like, oh man, I wanted to see them.
Yeah, I would have loved to have done the Canadian shows on that tour, but same thing with us, we've got to do visa things to cross the border, and it just wasn't affordable. It was just a cost thing, so
yeah.
When we get bigger tours and things like that, hopefully in the future, it'll be much more affordable. Or, like, they've been able to do festivals over there, because it's not as long as a period to go over and things like that. So, hopefully we will get to Canada soon, when COVID, because what I would like to see Helion Prime do is not tour the States. They've toured the States a bit, even without me before, and so I think for the moment, unless, again, it just looks like it's going to take forever, but I feel like by the time shows come back, like, if we can leave, I want to go overseas. I want to go to Japan. I want to go to Brazil. although unfortunately things are not going good in Brazil right now. So I don't know when we're going to be able to do that, but I would like to see Helion Prime get out to some other territories and just reach some international audiences before we come back around to the States again. Again, it depends totally on feasibility, but for sure, I'm hoping for Japan. I would like Japan to be one of the first places if we can, feasible. So.
Yeah, Japan is probably like personally for me, Japan's like my number one bucket list kind of place for sure. So I we're almost out of time here, but I'll just have a few like rapid fire, I guess, things. Is the first thing is is there any future plans about Helion Prime that you can disclose at the moment, or no?
We've been recording a little bit for something soon, and I don't know if I can really say what it is, but we have been recording, and I went a few weeks ago to for these recordings. We've had a special guest doing some vocals. We posted about that though. It was Carlos. That on Instagram. So we do some recordings. We have a couple special guests, and we were doing those with Alex Nasla at his in California, and me and Jason are no, just me. I'm sorry. He can't come because of work and things like that. But he can't come, and so he does his at home. But I'll be doing mine at NASA's again next week, I think. So what's cool is we'll be able to talk about those recordings soon, and we'll make an announcement for that. So yeah, we've kept going, and we've got some really, I think these particular recordings you guys are gonna really love. So we've been teasing, obviously, that we've been in the studio recording something on Instagram and things. We just haven't said what exactly, and so we'll put it out soon. But yeah, we just keep going because again, we can't tour, so that's what we're doing. We're recording some stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I'm really excited to hear all that, and also I think we have two comments, two questions. One of them isn't actually in the chat right now, so I don't know if you saw, but yesterday before every stream, I always do a little on our story. I'm like, oh, does anybody have any questions for whoever's on? And I haven't seen him on here yet, so if he hasn't, I'll tell him, and he'll probably be on later. But Big Bad Wolf 6669 wanted to ask you, which band or musician that has inspired you the most? I guess just in general.
I don't know if there's like one in particular, but I can say that the first time I ever saw Angela Gasso on stage, I saw Arch Enemy on their first tour with her in the United States a really long time ago, and playing to like 50 people. But I will say that was a definitive moment, and I will say that made me want to do harsh vocals and change the way I looked at being a front and things like that. So definitely she had a profound, I think, influence on what I decided to end up doing. So that'd probably be the closest answer for that one.
Sweet. And the other one here, we got Shady Power Metal Storefront. Good to see you again, bud. He mentioned the bit about screaming versus singing is weird to hear, because I've seen so many death metal bands locally that have good clean, but the good clean singers are always the ones that stand out. I agree, actually. I find that a lot of I find that something like harsh vocals nowadays are really saturated, so having a good clean singing voice, I think, is essential for you to stand out as well. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I think so, but it's so weird. It's like I think maybe it might be a gender thing, because I do think that it's still, as long as I've been screaming, which has been a really I think I just decided to do more of that because I think it was just getting lost. But this could be because too, I come from a different time as well, when, you know, a different time of metal when things were a little different. And so I think power metal too, as a genre, has come full circle. Back when I started, you know, back in the Luna Mortis days, about a decade or so ago, it was not very cool to be in a power metal band, especially in the United States. Really cool in Europe, and it was still only the old, or maybe South America too, but it was only the old bands. And even 10 years ago, there were already like legacy bands like Angra and stuff. If you're talking about South America and, you know, overseas in Europe, Halloween and all that. So you're still talking about like legacy acts that were already legacy acts, even at that point. And so it's been the biggest shocker to me, something I never saw coming, because at that time doing a band that was all clean singing was like, no, it was all new wave of American heavy metal, and they really wanted, I mean, people kept calling Luna Mortis power metal, but like it was as power metal as was like allowed by the Americans at that time, because it was really, really new wave of American heavy metal. Like it really had some power metal riffs and things, but it was like lots of screaming and pretty heavy and stuff. And so it just was interesting to me, how people's perspective has changed. They were hearing that as really power metal, and I don't think we would think of that now like that. And because now it's come totally full circle, and it's blowing my mind how we have like all these pretty much or more singing focused, like there's elements of harsh vocals in all these bands, but really, really clean singing focused power metal bands. We, you know, in North America in particular, so meaning both United States and Canada. So we've got Immortal Guardian, Paladin, Judicator, Helion Prime,
Lords of the Trident.
yeah, we've got Lords of the Trident, you know, which again is an offshoot still of Brian, the guitar player, used to be in Luna Mortis with me. He was the main.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
Player. And then we've got who else? Unleash the Archer, Striker. You know, you guys starting to come up, and so it's like we have a lot of really melodic bands that I never saw a scene like that. I mean, it literally, like when I went on that tour with Unleash the Archers and Striker, I was like calling all my North Tail too, Bill's band.
Oh yeah. Witherfall.
Oh, and Witherfall. I can't forget Witherfall. I mean, literally, like the list keeps going, and it's like,
yeah, it's nuts. Yeah.
This was like not the thing at all back in the day. And so I will say it's really cool. It's really surprising to me, but it's very, very cool. It's really cool to see it come full circle, because I agree. I think it came full circle because people are a little bit bored. Like harsh vocals have this thing of like, once you get past using them as an accent or two, you become numb to them, like a fan sound or a vacuum or gravelly noise. Once you get past the initial like volume, like it starts to drown out, like people who can sleep to white noise. It actually doesn't, you just get accustomed to it, you know? So I think that that's kind of what brought that metal full circle, you know, to more the melodic side, because for years Dragon Force was the only one. And it, even then, they came up in that new wave of American heavy metal time, and it was just a shock. And if it wouldn't have been for like Guitar Hero or something, I'm not sure the scene was so unsupportive of that. It's so miraculous that they got as far as they did. I mean, I toured with Ed Guy in the States in 2009, and it was nothing. I was played a lot of the same venues I played with Unleash the Archers and Striker, and I was calling all my friends like Bill and all my other metal friends that did power metal, and I was like, you're never gonna believe, like, these same places I played with Ed Guy like 10 years ago, like to 50 people, it's like sold out, completely sold out. Like the whole power metal scene changed. And the thing is, at that time, Ed Guy couldn't find any power metal bands to play with in the States. We were as close as it got, Luna Mortis, and it was still 50-50 singing, screaming. And I would say it's not power metal the way the rest of these bands are power metal. And the other band we had was also a like sort of a symphonic Euro sounding band, but they were also, again, fit very much into that new wave of American heavy metal, 50% screaming, you know. So Ed Guy couldn't even find proper bands like that. Now they would have like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of us to pick from, and a much different turnout. And what really did it was streaming. All the nerds, you know, became the people empowered. All of us geeks became the people who adapted to the technology, and then streaming and video games, and people listening to this type of music and video games, and then the algorithm suggesting the related bands. Like it's what made it all possible. So
yeah, and even then with the with you mentioning like Dragon Force at the time was the only kind of band that was doing it, and I kind of even remember, like, I think around that time, around that time I was like really, really young, but I even still remember back then people even used to like make fun of Dragon Force all the time, you know? It's like, oh, look at these guys freaking playing this cheesy music and blah, blah, blah. That's not metal, you know? And I even remember that, and it was kind of hard to watch because I always liked Dragon Force too, so. But,
yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's 8:04 now, so before we wrap things up, I just saw a big bad wolf come back in, and sorry, bud, Sherry answered your question. I asked it before you came in. But I guess one more thing I'll ask before we sign off, and I know you've done this a little bit already, but since you're someone who's in a band who is gaining a lot more traction, and with your YouTube, you're someone who a lot of people like look up to, myself included, do you have any parting advice that you'd like to give to the viewers?
I would say, yeah, just the thing I was saying earlier about don't worry about consistency. I think a lot of people that teach this stuff will be like, just pick a day to load and be consistent every Tuesday or whatever. And like, ideally you're going to try to do that, but I actually have never done that on my channel. I've never been able to do that. Like, it's hard to edit video and make high quality content. And so I just do it when I can do it. And I just try to get something out. Sometimes I try to get it out every week if I can, but it can't always be the same day. And I'm not trying, if I would have the ability to be consistent, I would see some results from that. But it's hard to be like that. It's really, really tough. And I find for like most adults and most people pursuing these things, it's somewhat unrealistic. And so again, don't beat yourself up if like, oh, like 2 Tuesdays in a row, like I didn't get anything up because you're trying to move or something, you know, you have life things going on. Well, that's, or work or whatever, like fair enough, you know, then just work as hard as you can to get something up as soon as you can, you know, just keep going, you know, and keep doing things and keep putting stuff out. Because sometimes what I realized in the oversaturated world of content, not everybody is expecting everything on a timeline anymore. There is stuff that's just, you know, so much to absorb content wise. Some people don't even realize that it's been like 2 weeks instead of 1 week that you put something out. Like a lot of the audience doesn't, they just get the notification like, oh, there's something new. Then I don't necessarily know that the audience is necessarily timing things to a watch the way they used to back in the day when you had to like catch a TV show every Tuesday at 7 because that's the only way you're gonna get it, you know. If they miss something, they can come back. So I don't think people are as tied to schedules and things. So again, if you have 1 week where you just kill it on Instagram and the next week it's very hard for you because there's stuff going on, don't give up. Just come back when you can. And that is going to still be better than no weeks of motivation, you know. So you have to always just keep going back and don't like derail the entire train just because like you couldn't put out content this week or whatever, or get down on yourself, because a person who puts out content once a month is still doing something better, you know, than the person who's doing nothing. And in fact, I'd rather people see, like my students and things, like do less content and more quality things, you know. So or, you know, like stuff like this is much more easy to do consistently because it's just an Instagram conversation. You don't have to edit something. You don't have to like set up some lighting and film something, you know. It's not filming a cover. It doesn't involve like that level of production. So, or tie your focus to things that don't have such a high level of production if you want to put some more stuff out on it, you know, just stuff like that. And to realize like just doing stuff is enough, you know, just doing stuff, just do some stuff. Don't worry about how much, or just keep doing stuff, you know. That's the best.
Awesome. I see that Bill Hudson from North Tail and Wicked Wally have joined as well. How's it going, guys?
I just did. Well, wait, maybe I'm not supposed to say.
Yeah, just well, anyways, it sucks that you guys just joined now because I think I'm gonna call it at the moment. But thanks, Mary, so much for doing this with me and being on the show. And yeah, so I'll just do my little sign out. So
Okay.
go follow Mary on Instagram. Go give her a subscribe on VoiceHacks. And if you feel so inclined, hit her up for vocal lessons. She taught me, and best lessons I've ever had. So
Thank you so much. Thank you.
anytime. And follow us at Lycanthro Metal. And tune in on Wednesday because we're going to be doing our very first double stream, I guess, like 2-on-2 with Joe and Lisa from Dark Moon Productions. Our bass player Stu will be joining us on my end.
Cool.
So once again, Mary, thanks for coming. And yeah, we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. You rock.
Yeah, thanks, Mary. See ya.